welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Deeks and Vaca show. I'm always tempted to just play air guitar the entire intro there because it's fun and because we can and because why not?
You know what we should do? We should film an intro where I'm just in different spots around my room with different guitars that I have off the wall, just going on.
Why haven't we done that yet?
I don't know. I just
17
right
guitars on the wall behind you, and we haven't thought of that yet. So
I just thought of it now.
It ain't too late, man. It ain't too late. Next time. That's
Stay
right.
tuned.
Stay tuned, folks. So yeah, for those of you that's your first episode, Eric and I do this new show. Eric is my captain. I assigned him as the captain of our ball hockey team, the Rink Rats, several years ago. I want to tell that story very quickly because why the heck not? Right off the top here. So you and I started playing together on the Top Shelf team. This was my first time actually playing men's since I was a kid. So I had a bucket on last time I played men's ball hockey before I joined your team because I was playing co-ed with the Rink Rats the OG Rink Rats with my sister and the co-ed team. And then I thought, you know what, I'd like to try starting up a men's team again. So before I did that, I joined your guys' team. And that's when, we kind of, I don't know that we talked a lot right away. It was more like hockey, you just show up and play and you kind of see how guys are and if they're going to fit in. And I had to go up to forward to start that. But it went well.
How did you get on that team? Hudson's?
I think it was, it must have been Brandon Howlett and Brandon Lint because they were on that team as well. And they were on the co-ed Rink Rats team as well. Yeah.
And I knew Lint before that through my buddy Matt. So that would probably be where he came from. But you knew the Hudsons before then too, didn't you?
I didn't know the Hudsons. No, I didn't. That's where I met them was through hockey. So
okay,
yeah.
Because didn't you guys all play over at that the Chippewa church there? Before
they did. I never played there though. I never played. I was invited a couple times. I could just never make it for whatever reason. Yeah. But that's where they played a lot too. But no, I met them through your team, and then eventually we formed the Rink Rats men's team, and then we've stuck with it since 2013 or 14. I want to say. I think it was 14, but somewhere in there.
14 makes sense.
I think it was 14. You and I, yeah. All right, folks. So before we
10-year anniversary coming back.
Yeah,
couple of years.
It's coming up.
We got to do something.
We got to do something for the Rink Rats anniversary for sure. Okay, so here's the subjects we're going to go through today, guys. This was fresh news today, unfortunate news if you're an Ice Dogs fan, or maybe depends on how you feel about it, I guess. But it hits close to home for me as somebody who works at the arena where the Ice Dogs play. So Joey Burke and Billy Burke, GM and head coach of the Ice Dogs, suspended for the next 2 seasons. That's kind of we'll get into that in a second. And then the next subject, Leafs Demons are back. Yep, they are back again, but before the playoffs. So hopefully, anyway, we'll get to them.
I dispute that slightly.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it. Don't you worry. Jay Beagle, Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras incident from last weekend. The fight that went down, the incident. We'll get into that as well. And then one of our last subjects is going to be the Tim Stutzle needs to smarten up, according to Brendan Gallagher, my guy, Brendan Gallagher. Hard to disagree with him there, but we'll get into that. It's going to be another interesting topic. So Eric, let's just start with the heaviest subject of the day, I suppose, because like I mentioned, this is my 4th season working at the Meridian Center. I work there in a food and beverage capacity, so not related to hockey, really. But in 2018, I started covering the team on my own, and then covering other teams that they were playing. I got the chance, as I mentioned 6 billion times on my channel about the Habs, that I got to interview Nick Suzuki and some other players around the OHL, but mainly the Ice Dogs. My favorite was Akil Thomas. And
I remember that was a good interview.
It was, and Akil is probably my favorite player I've ever interviewed to this day. And I'll always remember that. And he was part of this, probably the last most successful Ice Dogs team. So getting this news today really sucked. I've interviewed Joey and Billy several times. I made a pledge to myself, and this is what I was going to tell you, because as you know, I've gone pretty heavy after hockey broadcast in the last 2-3 years. And now you and I get to do it together, which I'm very happy about. But I made a pledge to myself that I wanted to get closer to the game. That's kind of the pledge I made to myself, whether that meant in junior hockey, NHL. I just wanted to get closer and started to get to know people that are involved in the game and get to know the people at Sportsnet or TSN or wherever, and just pick people's brains and really see if this is for me and if this is something I want to do for a living, maybe potentially, and that kind of stuff. And the Ice Dogs kind of were that first opportunity to do that. And Joey and Billy were, were always there and treated me very, very well, especially in the beginning when I was really green. So, but today it's not about that, unfortunately. And it sucks that we even have to talk about this. And we're choosing to talk about this. We don't have to. This just got dropped today, as we know. And
well, it's local for us. So, I mean,
it's local. Yeah. This is the
you
local.
You can't
team.
avoid it. If you're going to do a show like we do, you just really can't avoid the news. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And, I even debated wearing this hat today because I just got this not too long ago. I exchanged it for a hat that my buddy traded off with me. But
good looking hat.
Yeah, it's nice. It's Niagara. And that's the whole thing about this, is that whatever happens with this team, whatever the future looks like for this team, and I hope that the Burke family feels the same way at some point too. Like, they've created a really exciting product, something that Niagara people haven't been enjoying since 2007. So we're looking at 13, 14 years now. And I don't know what the future holds for this team and this franchise here locally in Niagara, but I mean, when things like this happen and, people get in trouble and all that kind of stuff, what you have to realize sometimes is that, hopefully they realize that the product that they've created is bigger than them, and I hope that they're obviously proud of that product. I'm sure that they are, but there comes a time when, like, I don't even know what to say to a certain extent. Like I've been trying to figure out what to say about all this, to be honest. And I still don't fully know what to say because I feel like more of the story is going to come out. And because it is so local and because, I've had the chance to interview the Burke family also, I don't know them. I mean, I don't know these people really well. I don't know them outside of the hockey side of things, really. But it's too bad. And I think that ultimately, you hope that whatever it takes to get this franchise back to the point where the fans are proud of it. I mean, I feel like today is just kind of a sad day for fans in terms of just, the news dropping the way it did, regardless of what people's feelings are about Joey and Billy as a coach or as a GM, about the Burkes as the owners. I mean, the main thing is that they care about the product and whoever's going to lead it going forward. We're proud locally as a hockey Niagara community to support this team when we can. At least that's what I've seen working there the last 4 years. And it's too bad when an incident like this happens. And you found out a little bit of information about it as well. We're not going to slander anybody. There's a lot of people to consider in this instance. And I guess I'll let you take over from here. I mean, I'm not saying a whole lot, I guess, in terms of, I just don't know what to say. I guess I'm kind of lost for words to an extent because you don't want to see this happen to anybody. And that includes the people that were involved and the reason that they were suspended. So,
yeah. And, just to add on to that, it's not, I mean, for those of you people who don't know, it was based on, there was a group message that was sent out and it slandered a certain person or slighted a certain person in the company. And it was sent by somebody who also works there to the league for review. So you have a whistleblower in there that saw something that they didn't like and sent it to the proper authorities to be dealt with. And from what I was reading, I don't believe that there was any, it wasn't like the person who blew the whistle on it was jockeying for a better position within the organization or anything like that. It seemed like they credibly thought these kind of things shouldn't be a part of our culture and our game now. So, I mean, if you want to focus in on what a good silver lining of this is that 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, and before that, it's such a tight-knit little group, and what you say behind closed doors and what you say amongst your team and stuff like that, and the things that you do amongst your team was always kept secret. And there was this sort of unwritten code that, if it happens in the locker room, it stays in the locker room or whatever the case is. And that led to a lot of people having to take abuse and take, have to deal with a toxic environment that wasn't good for people. And it led to a lot of mental health problems. It leads to a lot of drug abuse and all kinds of stuff like that. So for somebody to instantly now say, That's not okay. And we're going to tell who needs to be told about it. It fills me with a little bit of pride, at least for our game and the way it's going, so that, situations like, Flurry, and when we were talking about Chicago in one of our earlier episodes, those situations don't happen again. And now in this world of social media and everything else, there's always somebody watching. And so we have to be more accountable for the things that we say and who we say them to. Even if you think something, that doesn't mean that it's okay to express that in certain ways that are abusive. And I think I agree with you. I would hope that the owners would understand that the game and the movement within the game to get away from these kind of things is bigger than them and is more important than them. And they should, accept responsibility for that and admit responsibility for that. And I have heard that they have to undergo training and counseling and stuff to understand why what they did was wrong. Because maybe they just don't get it. There's a lot of people that have an old school mentality, and they don't get why saying something like that is wrong. So I'm glad that that's happening. And I think that the biggest silver lining is seeing that, it was identified, it was given to the proper authorities, and it was taken care of right away, properly investigated. And that's where we want to be within our game. You're always going to have, in any institution, it seems to happen a lot more in sports, but in any institution, people feeling safe, like that person who blew that whistle, feeling safe enough in their job and in their environment and in their community to be able to say that's wrong and I'm going to speak out about it, is the good thing that is going to come from all this. So yeah, and maybe it wasn't meant to be harmful, but people need to be a little bit more aware that just because they don't mean something is harmful doesn't mean that the person that is the recipient of what you've said or what you've done doesn't see it as harmful. And that's an important distinction to make. So I think that, that's the good I'm taking from it. And I hope that the owners see it the same way.
Yeah, it's a new world of accountability, and that's just it. Like, you can't, you can't get away with saying just whatever off the cuff anymore. And that's not even the point. The point is we shouldn't have to get to that point. Like it should be a matter of, and that's why, like, I'm not close enough to the situation to know what was said exactly. But I mean, if an investigation was done and the OHL stepped in, even Rick Westhead, who very well closely documented the Chicago Blackhawks story with Kyle Beach, I mean, that was a thorough investigation, and these guys are good at what they do. And I mean, we heard it was a WhatsApp conversation, so that's what it was. And you really hope that, I mean, this kind of reminds me of what happened when the Canadians drafted Logan Mailloux. Now, again, different scenario, different situation, but a lot of backlash came to the Canadians, and now they're trying to course correct. And now the entire culture of the Montreal Canadiens has shifted, and they've gotten with the times. And you see even ladies in more prominent roles in the organization, and the communication's just different. There's a different level of respect and pride, and they still drafted this player. Like, as of right now, he's still going to be potentially a Montreal Canadian. And how are they going to handle it? Because they know his past, they know what he did, but he's course corrected, at least so far, according to what the Canadians have said. That he's gone through the counseling, like, for over a year and a half now. So at the end of the day, when these things happen, when wrong is committed, we're human beings, and you hope that everybody believes in some level of not just forgiveness, but just a path forward where the individuals will recognize what they've done and genuinely want to come forward and understand why they received the consequences they did. Because it's, we have to find a new way to get along in this world. Like, there's so many more intangibles here at play, I think. And I just don't think that when we're in positions of authority, when we're in the public eye, there's a bigger microscope, and sometimes maybe we think we can get away with more when we can't. And that's a good thing. Like you said, like we shouldn't, people shouldn't be afraid to come forward if they're uncomfortable or they're, just they want to right or wrong, like they shouldn't feel like they can't come forward. And I just hope that.
And in this situation, it wasn't even the victim that came forward, and it was somebody who was just an outsider who witnessed it. So that shows you that we do have this culture shift, and it is working, that people who see these things, see these injustices, can actually can act on them as well, even if the person who's the victim doesn't feel like they can come out about it. I'm happy about that. And it's just nice to know that. I mean, I agree with you that, especially with the Logan Milieu thing, where we're not here to, I mean, there's a punishment that you need to have for justice, but the end result should always be rehabilitation. I mean, not to get too off topic with hockey, but that's the problem with like even our jail system. You know what I mean? Sometimes, somebody commits a crime, and when you're in your youth, it's so easy to make those mistakes because your brain isn't fully developed yet, and it can just shut off at absolutely the worst moments. And a lot of times you send somebody to jail and they come out a worse criminal than what they went in, and because the rehabilitation isn't there. So the way the Logan Milieu thing is being handled, I think is great. Yes, the kid came out and said, "Don't draft me." They drafted him anyways. And then he says, "Okay, but we're going to take my story here and what I've done wrong and try to make some good out of it. And, and try to help affect the culture. And I'm going to work on myself." You can't ask for anything more from somebody who makes a mistake than that. And it's a situation where in this situation, if the owners can come out and say, "Yes, we made this mistake. We realize that we're maybe underestimating the toxic environment that we were creating. So here's what we're going to do to try to get better. And here's how we're going to try to be better moving forward." If you do that, then you can sort of win back some of the respect of your community. Not handling it like Chicago's owner handled it on that interview, when basically everybody who was watching that interview said, "This guy does not care at all about this human and what has been done." He just fly off the handle. That's an old school mentality that you're not going to change in that person. So there's beyond rehabilitation at that point. So, but yeah, that's it's going to be on their shoulders now to see how they respond to it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't want to get into to slander and putting down the Burks and everything. It's just like it's a tough situation where it's very clear to the community that their kids run this team, and the family dynamic. Maybe it's hard, man. Like, I go through this with my own freaking family, man. Like, you need boundaries. You need boundaries. You got to be careful, and I don't know the Burke family well enough, and I'm not trying to point fingers or anything. It's just like, maybe this dynamic just isn't what's best for the team. And that's not a slam. That's just like, all right, well, we tried, we gave it a shot, and you know what? Like, maybe it wasn't the best, and now we got to figure out some other people to put in these positions, right? So that's just kind of where I'm going to leave it for now. Like, I know I'm treading lightly on some of this because clearly I care about this team, and I see the fans every single week at the arena. They're passionate. They want to see a winning team, and I think they deserve that. I mean, the Niagara community is such a hockey strong community, and I really hope, again, like you said, that rehabilitation is the goal here, and to course correct and to bring the team back and the community back to where it should be. The Ice Dogs are a big name in this community, and a lot of people care about them, and I'm one of them.
Yep.
And you're one of them, and yeah, that's where I think we'll leave that, because at the end of the day, there's only a path forward, and hopefully it's the right one for all parties concerned. Yep. And that's what I really sincerely hope, because this team's been a whole lot of fun to watch and get involved with. And I got a jersey, I got a hat, like, this team has a lot of kids that follow it and look up to it and everything, right? So we just got to do right by everybody, and I hope that the best path forward is done
Yeah,
ultimately, whatever that looks like. You know what I mean?
they just basically have two options on your plate. This happened, you got investigated, you got caught. You could either go the route of trying to just handle damage control on it, or you can see it as an opportunity to change yourself and change your culture around you. And if you can't make that decision, if you can't make the right decision there, which it should be obvious to everybody what the right decision is, then yeah, I would agree. It's maybe move on.
Yep. And speaking of moving on, that's what we're going to do. So thank you for those that are sitting through this. We know it's funny because most of the people that tune into our channel watch for hockey coverage from the NHL, but this was a local story, and I really love talking about the ball hockey story from us, because when the arena closed that we play at, we wanted to talk about it for a while, and we did. And so for those of you that are watching that are OHL or Ice Dogs fans, thank you just for chiming in on a difficult discussion. Really, I mean, whatever your opinion is on it. So let's keep it respectful.
At the same time, leave us your opinion. Drop down in the comments. We'd love to hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, and keep it honoring. I mean, you don't have to agree with everything people are doing. I mean, we know what's been done is wrong by these guys, so we're very aware of that. But I want to jump into actually the Troy Terry, kind of another hard situation. But we talked about fighting. We talked about fighting on our last episode, and how it's slowly making its way out of the game, and we know that it has been, but it is still in the game. Mm-hmm. And the incident that occurred, if you didn't see it, Arizona Coyotes and Anaheim Ducks are involved in a game that got to the point where Anaheim was up 5-0, and Trevor Zegras did another Michigan goal. We talked about the Michigan in this episode, or in an earlier episode also, and your feeling on that, and how it's a low percentage play, but it does get you still, and you're not a huge fan of it, and I get that. But so to give it the full context here, Trevor Zegras, a young, talented, very talented player, you've probably heard of him, did the Michigan again. And then at the end of the game, when it was 5-0, there was what he considered to be a loose puck in the Arizona crease. He went after it, and Jay Beagle, a veteran Arizona Coyote player, did not like that, took exception, cross-checked Zegras from behind, and then Troy Terry, another very talented young Anaheim Ducks player, teammates with Zegras, jumped in with Jay Beagle and basically headlocked with him, and then from there, Jay Beagle just fed Troy Terry a bunch of punches. Terry didn't get any punches in, and it really looked more like an assault almost by the end of it, because he didn't get any punches in. But let's get your take on this, Eric, and also we'll talk about the Arizona Coyotes commentator Nash. His last name's Nash. He's an old NHL player, I think, as well. I'm not even certain if he was.
It's not Rick Nash, is it?
No, it's not Rick. Rick knows better than that. But let's just get into this, because I with fighting being our last topic, and then this happening, and seeing a guy get hurt as bad as he did. I mean, he was beat up bad. And,
that picture afterwards was ugly.
Yeah, I didn't want to put any pictures up because I'm like, I don't want to reinforce what was done. But
I've seen some ugly pictures from NHL, but that one was pretty bad. Like his eye was swollen right shut.
Oh yeah,
I remember a young Matthew Colcutt.
Yes,
took a ball in the eye, and then it was all swollen up, and he had a black eye. And then we had another game the next night, and the ball hit him in the same eye again, and his eye was swollen right shut.
He posted that in our Facebook group. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was ugly, that one for sure. But no, and you know what? And it's funny that this happened, because it ties in probably, I don't know, maybe 4 different things that we've talked about on 4 different shows. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about these young stars with the Michigan. Now everybody's sort of tying it together with the Michigan, because the announcer did that. The announcer was claiming, they're running around on him, and that's why he got beat up and stuff like that. And I don't think that was a direct result. I don't think Beagle was out there saying, "Man, if I get a chance to grab one of these kids, I'm gonna do them in because they're running the show on us." I don't think that. And I watched the interview with Beagle afterwards as well, and he made no mention of that being a catalyst. But what I can tell you from playing hockey for a lot of years is that when another team is running the show on you, even though you don't necessarily look for violent vengeance, some people do, but you don't necessarily looking for that. But the more that a team is running the show on you, the more it frustrates you. And when you get frustrated and you start gripping your stick harder and you start getting a little bit more chippy as things go on, I mean, any game you watch that's a blowout, you're going to see that. Teams just they get upset, and then so they start their hits get a little bit more on the questionable side. They start tripping and hooking, and it leads to more penalties, which leads to more goals against, and it's a big snowball effect. So I'm positive. Like, I didn't watch that whole game beginning to end, but I'm positive that at that point of the game, near the end of the game, like that, that Arizona just wants to get out of there. They can't wait for that clock to run down, and they're frustrated, and they don't like that. These guys have been running the show on them. But again, you're the Arizona Coyotes. You've been losing all season. I'm not saying you should be used to it, but keep your frustrations in check. And I thought that they did for the most part from the highlights I was watching. However, in this instance, the puck goes into the crease. It's loose, but still under the goalie. Like, under the goalie to the point where even if you get a poke on it, you're probably not going to get a scoring chance out of it. You have less than 5 minutes left in the third period. You're up 5-0. You've been showing off all game, and you take a dig underneath the goal. You stick your stick underneath the goalie to try to get a puck that you can see. I have to agree with Beagle. You're gonna take a shot from somebody. If it's not him, it's going to be somebody else. In those games, and typically when teams are blowing out other teams, you can see there's a level of respect there. If the goalie gets a hold of a puck, you might try to do some fancy stuff. You might try, some nice passing plays or to make some moves and stuff like that. Sure, it's still hockey. You still got to play to the whistle. You're still professionals. But if a goalie stops it, you're up 5-0. You're not going to lose this game. You're probably not even going to get scored on. It is an unwritten rule in hockey that you don't dig under a goalie for a puck in that situation. Even if it was in the second period, you could almost justify going for a loose puck. There's still lots of game left, but that late in a game, you just don't do that. And so Beagle gives them a cross check, and it wasn't devastating. It wasn't anything worse than what everybody gets when they play in front of the net on any given night. Maybe, obviously he wasn't expecting it because he went down, but he's not going to miss any time over it or anything like that. And so, yeah, you take a shot because you dug, and that should be the end of it. But Troy Terry decides that he has to defend his player for getting cross-checked, and he goes into the scrum. Now, another important thing that Beagle said during his interview was, there's ways you go into a scrum expecting to fight, and there's ways you go into a scrum expecting to scrum and just have it broken up by the official. And you can see this if you watch enough hockey. You can see guys will come in and they'll take one or two pushes and kind of stay away until a ref gets in between them, and then they try to do a little extra face washing and stuff. That's the normal way that you go in and do that stuff. And Troy Terry could have went into the crease there after him and grabbed a hold of him in a much different way than he did. But instead he grabbed him, tried to put him in a headlock, and pulled him out of the scrum away from the other players. And Beagle said, that to me, I mean, things happen in a flash in 1 second. That to me is signaling your intention to fight me. And when you pull a guy out of a scrum in a headlock, I don't know if anybody said, let's go. I don't know anything like that. But if you do that, then you need to be prepared to be in a fight. That's taught to you from when you're a 15-year-old kid. If you're going to go in with this kind of an aggressive grab, then yes, you get your gloves off quick, because the guy's getting his gloves off. And that's what you've done. You've gone in to stick up for your teammate. This has been the code in hockey for years and years and years. So, I don't fault Jay Beagle for fighting him. Now, should he have, at the point where you realize this guy doesn't have his gloves off even yet, and he's clearly already turtling, yes, you don't keep feeding him shots, but it's the perfect combination of it being a very frustrating third period for those guys trying to get out of there. You're already frustrated that they're digging at your goalie. They're probably taking liberties with the chirps back and forth and stuff like that. And if you're going to frustrate another team to that point and then take a liberty with a goalie, then haul a guy out with expecting to fight, I can see why it got a little out of control on his end. But again, you're a professional. You need to let up a little bit there. You can't be hitting a guy when he's already down on the ground and trying to turtle away from this. Even if, he signals his intention to fight, there is a level of restraint that's necessary. So Beagle needs to take some responsibility for that. But I see the situation as being almost equally Anaheim's fault for going that way. So, but like when we had this conversation about fighting, that's not really that kind of a fight is not really what we were talking about. I don't think, we're talking more about the heavyweights who, want to get it out to center ice and have a tilt, and then they pat each other on the back and say good fight at the end of it. You know what I mean?
I still find that weird that they're able to do that.
Yeah. And
it's like UFC, I guess, right? They hug at the end.
Yeah. It's a gladiator code. You've done the damage you want to do, and you've made the point you want to make, and now you go out and you have a beer together. I mean, it's been that way since I was on the schoolyard. You know what I mean? There's people that I'm still friends with today that I had a fight with in high school. You know what I mean? So it's that's understandable from on their end. But this situation was why the fighting is how the fighting can really get out of hand when liberties are being taken by both teams. So it's a sad incident. It's not good for anybody involved. But not seeing any real supplemental discipline, I think, is a good thing as well. So just let it take care of on the ice, and that they're going to remember that now. Coming back in, Anaheim's going to try and do 4 Michigans next time. Arizona's going to be playing a much more grindy, tight hitting defense. You can bet on it. So it creates rivalries, but unfortunately comes at the cost of somebody being pretty badly hurt. So,
well, that's the thing. Like now what, like how does the situation really get dealt with properly now? Because it means that like now you got to risk Jay Beagle becoming the next Steve Moore? Like, you know what I mean? Like what do we, like what's next? You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm not comparing the incidents. Like one is just a vicious assault, and Jay Beagle's got to show some restraint there. Like he's got to show some self-control and realize that after the first punch. But I mean, that's what happens with adrenaline and just the heat of the moment. Like you really lose focus in that moment. So I think that he should be held accountable for that. Of course he should. Like
I don't think it'll end up a Steve Moore type thing, because
no, I mean, like that's extreme, and
because guys
still, who knows
though? Yeah, I mean, he might have to fight somebody at next game. That's a possibility, but it's a probability, I would say, actually. But you won't see somebody just like attack him that way, because guys don't want to blow their ride anymore, and if you do anything like the Todd Bertuzzi thing nowadays, you're done. Your career's over, especially if you're not a star.
Yeah.
Because there's a million guys waiting to take your spot that aren't a liability. So,
yeah, I just think it's more of, that's why maybe there should be harsher consequence for fighting. Like, agree with her or not, Jen Botterill's onto something. Like, this guy gets just, beat up bad. And I understand the code. And like, again, hockey has its ways. I understand that. And I learned the hard way too myself. So this is where I can relate on somewhat of a level here, because I'm not a fighter, and I, never really wanted to be, but a couple days before my wedding, we had a game with the Rink Rats, and very similar situation. So there's a kid digging at Wayne, our goalie, and clearly Wayne's got the ball covered up, like he's digging like for no good reason. So I shoved him, and I it wasn't like a tap. Like I shoved the guy, and I realized, geez, that was a bit harder than I intended to be. And then the guy's like, "Drop your gloves, drop your gloves." And I was like, "What?" Like, okay, pal, like whatever. And then before I know it, like my gloves are still on, and he suckers me, right? So like I had to learn the hard way, though. I instigated that. Like I instigated that. It was my
But did
fault.
you or did he?
Well, I mean, in terms of the shove, like I could have just like got up close to him and said like back off. I didn't need to like physically push him.
Can you do that in the moment though? It's tough. Like I mean,
Yeah, but it wasn't necessary. I realized at the time it wasn't really worth it. Like it
yeah,
wasn't really
it's
worth
not.
it.
No, you're right. It's
And
not.
then he basically he coerced me. Like he kind of was like playing mind games with me a little bit, because I was like, oh yeah, okay, like basically like whatever, yeah, okay, let's fight. And then he took that seriously and dropped his gloves and just threw a punch. And I wasn't really ready for it, but I mean, that was on him. Like he got thrown out of the game and whatever. But I mean, if it wasn't for me shoving the guy, like after just a simple, like Wayne was fine, Wayne wasn't hurt, like So
Yep,
I was
but
doing, yeah.
it's different. It's different in recreational ball hockey than it is in the NHL, because these guys, this is their job, and not only that, but from your point of view in the NHL, do you want to be known as the type of team that allows other teams to take liberties with your goalie like that without any response to?
Yeah.
That's the problem that the Leafs get into, is because they're considered soft with their players. They're anybody you can go around and run around and hit Matthews, hit Tavares, hit whoever you want with no response from anybody, because they just want to, play a skilled game. And, they don't want to get drawn into that kind of thing, which makes sense. I mean, it's where you want the game to go. But at the same time, you're going to lose because all these liberties are being taken. And, it's like somebody shooting the puck in the net after the whistle's been blown. You come in, it's offside, and then you haul out and take a slap shot. I mean, yes, it's not worth it for somebody to get hurt over that, but you can't just let that happen either.
Yeah, you got to
So unless the league is going to step in and say, hey, when a goalie's laying down on a puck, you have to keep your stick out of there. You can't dig at them.
Yeah.
Then it's players that are going to have to police that.
Like, to me, I thought I could have shown more restraint too, and just been like, okay, listen, like, don't do that again. You know what I mean? I didn't have to shove him. That's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't have to make it physical. I could have just gotten his face and said, listen, like, back off, like, get out of here, kind of thing. And then he
probably would have dropped the gloves with you anyway.
Maybe. I mean, that kid was troubled too. Like, I mean, I heard about what kind of person he was outside the rink, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, you got worse problems, whatever.
Looking for it. Some guys are looking for it. I don't see that from Beagle specifically, but some guys are looking for it. That's for sure. They want it.
For sure.
That's the reason they're out there.
So you mentioned the Leafs, so let's just segue into the Leafs, and like, honestly, this is more of like a dangle thing, because he actually went and named the LFR Demons, but yeah, I mean, the Leafs up 5-1 last night. They blow the lead. They lose in overtime 7-6, which a lot of people thought it was a really entertaining game. I don't know how you felt on your side, but this was a pre-playoff game, and we're mentioning this. You're a Leafs fan, and I have no problem talking about that team. I think they're fascinating, and that's why they're fascinating, because they're fascinating. I don't know how else to put it. Like, they're always such a story, because Leaf fans have just been waiting so long to get over the hump. And again, we're on the precipice of another playoff run where they have a very good, strong, skilled team, better than last year. I think we can agree, based on the way the week they were having. They just won 5 games coming into last night. Last night was a back-to-back. They're up 5-1 on Florida, looking
against
real
tough
good.
Teams too.
Yeah, like they're playing better against the good teams, which is a good sign.
That's always been the way the Leafs have been.
Yeah, like they show up in the moments that count, and then Game 7 happens, and then it's all over. But like, that's where, and I'm not sure, like, everyone settle down. You Leaf fans are sensitive over there. Eric can take it in stride. That's why, we can have these chats. But
when you're a fan, you just know. What can you say back? Like, there's nothing I can say.
But they are fun to watch though. Still, like, I mean, I'm not a freaking, like, I can root them on. I hope they win. I thought they were going to beat my own team last year. I wasn't going to be sad if they did. I don't care. I'm like, I'm a grown up about it. I don't want to hear you guys whining for another 10 years. Like I want to hear you guys happy. I want to see my friends happy, believe it or not. It's all gamesmanship, right? So what's your take, I guess? I mean, are the Leafs demons really back, or is this like a flash in the pan? Like they had a really good week, and this just kind of was going to happen maybe at some point.
Yeah. So I'm going to say no. And I disagree with and this isn't me being a homer. This is me being realistic. You had to watch Monday and Tuesday. If you watch the Tampa game and how complete and how hard of an effort they put in, that game, even though it was a blowout, was a 6-2 win or whatever. They fought for every inch of that ice all night long against that team. Right. So now you come into Florida the next day, less than 24 hours rest. You've got Muzzin's back, first game back from injury, paired together with Hull again, which has not been a good pairing all season long. As soon as I saw that, I was like, that is going to be trouble right away. You got Lyubushkin, who's been such a great shutdown addition to the lineup, now sitting in the press box. Another bad choice. And then Shalgren playing, his fifth or sixth NHL start against the top scoring, most highly offensively talented, save for Pop, maybe a Colorado team in the league. I was fully expecting a blowout loss. Maybe not a blowout, but I was expecting a 4-1 or a 5-1 loss. Just like I didn't really expect them to be in it at all. And even when they were popping in goals left and right and building up to that 5-1, everybody, myself, the announcers, everybody knew the Leafs they haven't played any decent defense since they stepped on the ice. They just gotten lucky that the goals have tilted in their direction. I mean, the shots were like 15-15 in the first 7 minutes of the game. Like nobody was defending anything. It was one of the rare times that I agree with Ray Ferraro because he does the color commentary, and and he's like, "Is anybody planning on defending tonight?" Because I haven't seen it yet. He saw it. Everybody saw it, and everybody knew it was going to be a track meet. If anybody took the under on 5 or 6 goals, they're just nuts for that game.
I started Bobrovsky in my fantasy league. I was sorry I did. Let me tell you.
Well, he got.
Gosh darn it!
They had gone through all 4 goalies by the end of the second. It's just one of those teams. Do you remember a few episodes back we were talking and I said once in a while teams, it was when we were talking about the 10-7 game. And I said, once in a while teams just stop listening to the coach and they decide they're going to play pond hockey and like they're going to have a pickup game. And that's what that was. It wasn't the Demons. It wasn't like, once Florida started scoring, the Leafs were like, we're going to blow a lead. This wasn't like those leads that they were blowing in January. At the beginning of January, they blew like 5 of 7 games. They blew 4-1 or 3-1 leads. It wasn't that. It wasn't like the underconfidence got to them. I think they were still confident right up till it was 5-5 that they were going to win that hockey game. And then Florida goes up 6-5 and they still look like they were trying to win the game. And you lean on your captain and he gets you the goal that ties it up, and you squeeze a point out of a back-to-back with 2 of the top teams in the league, 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion and the number 2 overall team in the league. To come out of that with 3 points, that there's no demons there. The Leafs are playing at a confidence clip now that's much higher than they've been playing with all season. It's only helped by the fact that Campbell's back and Muzzin's coming back, and I think that they'll easily go into the dressing room and just laugh that one off and just be like, what a shit show that was. I mean,
everyone else is going to make a bigger deal out of it.
Totally.
And you know what? If you're the Leafs, who freaking cares what everybody thinks, right? Like that's the whole point. Like, yeah. So who cares what we all think?
If anything, I think it helps them. I think that it's even more squashing of demons. It's like, hey, we beat these guys on the second half of a back-to-back just a week earlier.
They looked really good at home against them, I thought.
and I mean, we lost to Montreal the night before, and we had a good response game, but we didn't play Montreal anywhere near as hard as we played Tampa the night before in that one. And you know,
like exactly.
After I watched the Tampa game, I'm like, what a gutsy, gritty win. I'm fully expecting a loss tomorrow night. And when they were up 5-1, I wasn't even sure that they weren't going to hold that. I knew it was going to be a close game no matter what. I mean, you can't hold Florida off without playing defense. It's not possible. I feel sorry for Shalgren.
Yeah, Matthews Marner, and then Huberto Barkov,
oh my god, Huberto was he had a career game. I never I mean, he's got a great season. Don't get me wrong, but
he's over 100
all over
points.
the rink.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't believe how good he was.
Yeah, those are two really fun teams to watch. If that's a playoff series, let's go. And I think that it'll tighten up. Of course it will. Of course it will. I mean, Florida.
Sorry, without their marquee defenseman there. Ekblad. Without Ekblad in the lineup, believe it or not, I think the Leafs are deeper in the defense. But Florida definitely has a deeper forward group. And, everybody makes a big deal about, the scoring threat that Toronto brings to the ice. Well, Florida's is even better. So
that's why it should be a really good matchup.
You got to watch out.
It wouldn't be a first round matchup, most likely, but
not unless the Leafs slip to a wild card, which is possible. But
if it's second round and it's against Florida and they get smashed, you can't really be upset about it though, because they're good in the second round. So
I honestly, if we get past the first round, I'll be happy with that. I can.
But okay, that's the one question I'll ask you before we move on to our last subject. Then is even we both listen to Dangle and a lot of Leafs coverage in general, but is it your Stanley Cup if you get past the first round? It is kind of a big deal to get past that first round at this point.
No, it's not. It's not the Stanley Cup.
It's obviously not in the literal sense, but I mean, it's a big thing to overcome, and it sucks that it has to be that way, right?
It's a step forward that we desperately need. So, the Leafs are in the desert right now. They're in the middle of the desert with no water. And getting past the first round would be a nice full canteen of water, but you still got to get out of the desert. You still got to make that trek to the promised land. And, there'll be heartbreaks along the way, but just to get that glass of water would be nice.
To get that glass of water would be nice. I think that's got to be shared with Leafs Nation. I like that. I'm ending on that. I don't want to hear anything else. I like that a lot.
Sounds good.
Put a button on that. We'll maybe clip that. All right. So Tim Stutzle needs to smarten up, according to Brendan Gallagher. And, I don't talk about Montreal a lot on our show because there's so much more to talk about. And it's nice having a break talking about my Habs because that's the crux of what I talk about on this channel. But what did you make of the collision with Nick Suzuki and Tim Stutzle? And I'll give my take on it also, but I want to hear yours first, of course. And just, players lying down and doing the whole soccer thing and, trying to sell the call and he gets right back up and gets on the power play and keeps playing.
Yeah. So I have this conversation with Brian a lot. My friend Brian.
Brian Rocco, shout out. You watch the show.
We used to do Odd Man Rush together, and we had this conversation on Odd Man Rush a few times, which is that soccer, football, if that's your preferred term, is
European football, dear.
Yeah,
Mrs. Delphire quote. Sorry,
for sure. It's a great game. It would be the best game if it wasn't for the diving. That shows you what 100 more years of diving turns into. Anytime someone comes near you, you go down because you're trying to sell for calls. And I really, really hope that hockey doesn't get that way. And I as much as I don't like Gallagher as a player,
you don't?
I don't. Not so. I shouldn't say I don't like him. I mean, if he was on my team, I would love him.
That's what I mean. That's what I was gonna say. I'm like, come on.
But it's I had to almost give him a standing ovation when I heard when he was talking about the story of when he was 10.
Yeah,
And
that clip was perfect.
yeah, and he's saying like, yeah, and I think that's the way it should be. You should, if you go down, you should be down because you're hurt. You shouldn't be down because you're trying to sell a call. So I agreed with him, and I think that is the message that we should send to kids, is that you should take your lumps and be tough and gut it out, and win your battles for your areas on the ice honestly. If you're honestly hurt, yes, go down, cover up, do the thing you got to do, but only when you're honestly hurt. Don't just do it because you think you're going to get a call. So I agree with Gallagher. However, I am going to play a little bit of devil's advocate and just say, why are these players, especially the highly skilled players, doing this? So I watch, this goes all the way back to like Crosby in his early days. And I remember how everybody was always on him saying, oh, he's a whiner and he's a baby and all this other kind of stuff. He's always trying to get calls from the refs and stuff like that. And the reason is because of the Gallaghers, because of the Marchands, because of the Tom Wilsons, who are out there who push the boundaries of the rules to the limits in taking liberties with star players. And the star players can't defend themselves by fighting. Their coaches won't allow them to do that, and they're not good at it anyways. So the way that they defend themselves is by drawing a penalty and then scoring on you. So unfortunately, it's the Gallaghers of the world who are pushing it to that point, and causing these players to be more like, well, if I get my stick slashed, I'm going to drop it because that's going to get the penalty, as opposed to if I get my stick slashed and I just hold it and play through it, then maybe the ref doesn't call a penalty. And now it's partially on the refs too. It's not all on the rats of the league, but it's on the refs as well too. And they've got better over the years in calling anything that's on the hands or the slight slashes and the hooks and the cross checks. They're getting better at that, which is good. Hopefully that will take some of the diving out of the game. There was one of the worst dives I've seen even last night in the Florida-Toronto game. I don't remember who it was trying to go for a stick lift, and the guy looked like he broke his neck. I could pull it up in my group chat at some point, but it was such an obvious sell of a call. And it's poor sportsmanship. I agree with Gallagher 100%. You should you should tough it out and you should play through that's part of the game. But it's the Gallaghers of the world that are pushing it towards that. That's how these guys defend themselves now. So it's unfortunate, but and I don't think that they should do it. And that's the same message. His coach is the same message I send to the kids that I coach. Don't make me come out there and get you, because if I do, you're going to be sitting down for a while.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Gallagher's more of like a disturber in front of the net. Like that's where his kitchen is. Like he lives there.
mm-hmm.
But this is Nick Suzuki. Like this is Nick Suzuki bumping into Tim Stutzle. And if you watch the replay again, Stutzle, as he has the puck, by the way, so that's why Nick was going in to check him. But like Stutzle's left leg was already stretching out as Nick collided with him. So like it was incidental contact. I mean, it was a knee on knee, yes, but it wasn't an intentional knee on knee where they're, trying to take like, was it Savard or with Boston? Like there's been some very devastating knee on knees. And this was incidental contact. This wasn't Nick Suzuki being a goon. Like he's not that kind of player.
Absolutely. And that's why I agreed with Gallagher. And if Stutzle wasn't hurt there, he shouldn't have stayed down. Should have, gone. The hit may have knocked you down, but if you're not hurt, get up. And if you're out on that power play, then you were never that hurt from a knee-on-knee collision, because you got all the padding in the world down there. The only thing that's going to cause you to stay down is if you injure a ligament or a muscle, or you tear something. That would cause you to stay down. Then by all means, don't try and get up and injure yourself more. But if you're just like, oh, my knee pad bumped into his knee pad, so I got to stay down here to get a call. It's just poor sportsmanship. And I agree. I don't know. He says that Stutzle does it all the time. I don't see that. But
I looked. There has been more than one instance in the last, since he came into the league, because you got to think the Canadian division, right? They played each other a lot last year.
Yeah.
So that's where Gallagher was really going with. That's why he went into that, not
Yeah.
rant, but that comment.
And maybe he's in a better position to make that call than I am, because I don't play them every day. I don't watch Ottawa all the time,
Yeah.
more so lately, because they've been such an exciting team now. But,
Mhm.
I couldn't make that judgment call on Stutzle. That's his judgment call to make. But, but just looking at the situation of last night and that happening, then yes, he's absolutely right. Gallagher's right. Get up, stop rolling around, waiting for the soccer stretcher to come out and get you. That's just, it's poor form. And I agree, it sends the wrong message to the young kids coming up that, that's how you win hockey games. It's just, so I agreed with him, but as a devil's advocate a little bit, I would say, yeah, don't take so many liberties though with the Stars as well, and they won't be trying to sell calls. So
Yeah, well, that was more like to me, like there was liberties with Weber and Sherratt taking liberties on Matthews and Marner or Nylander, like that. To me, like the cross checking was that needed to stop, like in front of the net, and that was from our defense and not necessarily Gallagher. Gallagher's in the kitchen of goalies, and he actually had to call go his way last night, which was a friggin' rarity. Oh my gosh, like that was a miracle, right? Like just, and there should be, and I said this in my post game last night on my about the Habs Sens game, was that there should be a penalty for trying to create goaltender interference. Like I think it was Zub was trying to shove Mike Hoffman into, I don't know if it was Matt Murray in net or who the goalie was last night even, but he was trying to push Hoffman into him and then create goaltender interference, which thankfully they actually got it right for once for Gallagher's sake. It was against Ottawa last year where Gallagher reset himself. Like he got knocked down, but the Ottawa player reset himself and then tipped the puck in, and they still waved it off because he initially made contact with the goalie before getting knocked down. Mm-hmm. So he makes contact with the goalie, gets knocked down, resets with like a 3-4 second window there, and they still waved it off the goal. Yeah. So that's another conversation
that's not good. Yeah, we'll definitely talk in another show. We'll definitely talk about
goalie interference and replays.
Who knows what it is, right?
No, like I
crazy.
I think that's the consensus from the GM meeting. That's the consensus from fans, from commentators, from everybody around the game. With video review now, you just like, it's a crapshoot. It's 50-50. You don't know. So we'll have to dive into that one soon. But we're almost at an hour now, so we'll end it here. But I think it's been a great show. Personally, we've had a lot of great discussion here, and we try to do that. So hopefully you guys feel the same. If you've tuned in this whole time, it's a longer episode. We're newer to the hockey YouTube world, if you will, as a pair. But for those of you that, if you do stay the whole way here, thank you for doing that. If you've been enjoying the show, smash the like button. I don't ask for subscribes. I try to let those happen organically, but you know what buttons to push is what I always say if you're enjoying what you're seeing. So thanks, V. I always appreciate your insight from the game, and that's why you're you're such a big part of this show, because I think you try to offer as objective of what point of view as possible, and that's what you try to do, right?
Well, I appreciate that. And just a quick shout out here. This jersey today, this is Niagara Warriors. Okay. I put it on specifically because earlier this week I was asked to go back to provincials with them. So at the end of the month, myself and the Warriors will be going for another provincials title. Our last one was in 2019, and I'm very, very excited to be heading out to London to try to go for it again. So,
nice. That's good for you.
Yeah. Hopefully later on, maybe our first episode in May, I'll wear a medal.
I think I saw you wearing the Rink Rats shirt when you won it last, because you had to wear white, or maybe it was your undershirt or something.
No, I actually didn't even have a Warriors jersey at that time. I just joined the team like only a week before we had went to provincials, which was in Brantford last time. And the game that we played, we were playing a team that was black and they were home, and the Warriors wear black as well. So we had to wear white. So I wore my Rink Rats jersey, but that's one of my favorite hockey pictures, is holding that provincial championship with my medal on and stuff like that. And that was definitely the best thing I ever won in hockey. So I'm excited to give it a try and give it another go. And the Warriors are a really good team. The guy who runs it, Mike Ashley, is one of the best hockey players I've ever played with. Austin Newts is on that team. You know
Newtsy.
Austin. Yeah. And Howlett, Brandon Howlett's up there too. He
Oh,
actually asked me
beautiful.
to stay in the same hotel room as him, but I'm going to stay in an Airbnb. So, but yeah, I can't wait.
Cool.
The weekend of the 22nd to 24th, going for another provincial title.
Well, that's my birthday weekend, so you better friggin' win it.
Okay. I'll try to score a goal for you from
Or
defense.
yeah, whatever you need to do. Is that April though, or May? You said
April. So
okay.
our
That's
first episode in May would probably be when I would be talking about it.
okay.
Unless we
Just
do
want to
one next
clarify.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So April 23rd is my birthday. So very good,
Nice.
sir. Well, we'll end on that note, like I said. But thanks again for everybody watching. And you know what? That's what I was going to say quickly was we got to get the Rink Rats on a road trip and a tournament out of town finally, and like go have some team bonding here. And we haven't done that yet after all these years. We got to do that, man.
The Rink Rats have never been really a tournament team.
Yeah, we got to get one. We got to get one out there.
We'll play one for sure. I hate tournaments. I tell you, I don't like playing tournaments anymore because I'm older and it's there's a lot of body contact in tournaments that you don't get in the rec game as much.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a much more chippy grindy type game, and when you go into a corner, you got to expect a little bit of a bump every time. So
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah,
well, good to know.
It's hard on your body for sure, but it is a lot of fun. If I wasn't so broken down and crippled and getting old, then I would play more tournaments, but it's kind of a young man's game now. So
well, you look young still, so you know whatever you have to tell yourself.
It's the highlights they make me look young.
The new do you're rocking. Yeah, we're not used to that. So I love seeing the bandana out there on the rink when you're rocking that. It's pretty cool. So
yeah, that's fun.
I dig it. All right, guys. Well, once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode. Deeks and Back are coming your way. Stay tuned for the next one. It's always enjoyable for us to come on here, so thank you, and we'll see you soon.
To a stone ball.